Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. For those of you looking to secure and keep your cryptocurrency safe, there's a ledger link in the description below. There's an affiliate link. I do not work for Ledger, but I am an affiliate. I think it's time for us really, because I think we're at a very critical moment right now. I think it's time for us to have another big boy talk, where we actually talk about what's going on, where the market's heading, how people are reacting to things, and the current expectations for the future of this market. The video might be a little all over the place. It's because there's not just one topic that we have to focus on. It's literally hundreds. We're at the point where, if you've missed any of the last couple of videos, analysts are adamant. They don't think, they don't, whatever. It's literally, they are expecting that the cryptocurrency market is going to completely skyrocket from here on out. A lot of the attention recently in the news, especially in the news article, has been paid to the tariffs. And I said before, and I know sometimes it's difficult to conceptualize everything. The tariffs, much like every other kind of fear in markets, is only temporary. We are wired and have been taught since we were young that when something is scary, it has to remain scary. And we were talking about that in the beginning couple of months of 2020 when the cryptocurrency market was going down. And I said in multiple videos, I know it doesn't seem like it, but all this scariness is just temporary. It happens whenever the cryptocurrency market is going through any kind of a cycle. If Bitcoin goes from $20,000 to $3,000, there's an all hope is lost kind of feeling. We see the market go back up. People get very excited. It falls back down and we get this kind of sad feeling all over again. I think a lot of what we've been seeing, I know that a lot of what we've been seeing have just been distractions, but it's often quite difficult to put that into words, to put that into a video, or not sound like I'm making up nonsense myself. The news that we keep getting over and over is that institutions are buying Bitcoin, that central banks are actively buying Bitcoin, that governments are buying Bitcoin, that companies, you name it, rich people out there are buying as much crypto, as much Bitcoin. They're hoarding it as they possibly can. When you talk about the actual devaluation of the US dollar, as it's devaluing itself by simply being printed, or the devaluation of it against the actual valuation of versus Bitcoin. For those of you who missed it, the US dollar, you know this, in the last 10 years has lost more than 99% of its value to Bitcoin. That's huge. The US dollar is the world reserve currency. If you're talking about the collapse of the world reserve currency, the thing that the world has leaned on for the last 80 something years, and that money moving into Bitcoin, it's incredibly significant. When you talk about Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, 2 weeks ago, telling people and essentially warning people, he said if the US doesn't get its debt under control, if the US keeps doing what it's doing, it's going to lose. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, said if the US continues on this course, it's going to lose the US dollar as a world reserve currency status. It's going to lose it to Bitcoin. We already have expectations of Bitcoin hitting $1 million. A lot of times this ends up being kind of like the wall for a lot of people because it has a nice cling to it. People don't want to be $999,000 heirs. They want to be millionaires. It kind of has that level to it. We recently heard the CEO of BlackRock, the CEO of former CEO Changpeng Zhao of Binance, basically state he was like, yeah, I'm kind of confused as to how anyone doesn't understand that Bitcoin is going to $1 million per coin. We're in this really weird, it's a crossroad, it's a junction, it's a kind of a weird sphere. I don't know what this is supposed to be, where we basically have been lied to in a multitude of ways in a number of years in the cryptocurrency space based off of what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin is for and who Bitcoin is for. A lot of times when we see prices go down, you'll see me in a video, and I can't and will never tell you what to do with your money. But I try to make sure that you understand that any insanity that we see is always temporary. We live this life, obviously, but a lot of times we don't. I like to think. I'll tell you personally. A lot of times when things get kind of rough or kind of weird, I think about people who lived before me and their problems and their anxieties and the issues that they had, and I sit there and I go, where are they now? The things that they worried about, what they were going to wear, what other people thought, the problems that they had with money, they're no longer problems. And this kind of fuels me into thinking that, like, I'm usually just overthinking about a lot of things. And this is why I try and like pass that on when we're talking. And I'm like, things in crypto don't seem as bad as they actually are. Prices might have fallen, but we're not at zero. We didn't get news that Bitcoin was banned. We actually heard news that the ETFs only had $34 million worth of inflows as opposed to $100 million. Things aren't bad. They're actually pretty good. We're hearing that the United States of America is going to start buying up more Bitcoin. We're hearing that Canadian banks already own Bitcoin and they want several $100 million more worth of Bitcoin. We're hearing that all these companies and corporations and hedge funds and governments and central banks are foregoing strengthening their local currency and instead putting that money into crypto. It's incredibly powerful. But a lot of times we've been taught and we've been conditioned to hear in the news, something's happening with tariffs. We should all be afraid. The tariffs disappear a day or two later. Markets move back up. And then you have to sit there and think, or I ask you to sit there and think, what was I afraid of? The tariffs, in no case will they last forever. It's all momentary. I don't want to use the word pain, but it's kind of painful to see the cryptocurrency markets move down. We're currently at this point where I've been trying more so for the last 2 years. You've definitely noticed an uptick in these amounts. First of all, it's been in the news. It's not like I'm like fabricating it. You've seen in the news the amount of Bitcoin continues to dwindle and continues to go down. As someone who grew up without, as someone who was evicted from multiple different departments, from someone who I remember like hearing that like people were happy that, and as a kid, you don't understand. Hearing that my school lunch was going to be free was like a major thing because it's like, okay, at least he gets like another meal. Like it's this kind of thing that kind of, I think it fuels me to like want to make more money because I never ever want to go back to where I was when I was younger. It's just not a possibility in my mind that I ever want to hear that happen. And when I think about the possibility of richness or wealth creation from the vantage point of, as I've gone over before, I try and be relatively honest on this channel, from the vantage point of knowing that a lot of people in my family who were also born poor, we were never given the chance to learn about what money was or how money's made. I can't imagine going back to the 90s when I was a kid and trying to explain to someone, hey, that money that you're spending on nothing, if you put it into this stock in 30 years, it's going to make you a huge amount of money. There was none of that. Being in this market, knowing about money, knowing about inflation, knowing about interest rates, knowing about how money is made, how the rich get richer, and then the gigantic cherry on top, hearing these rich people talk so positively about Bitcoin, Bitcoin's future, where Bitcoin's going, how much Bitcoin's going to be worth. We get data of who holds Bitcoin and how much Bitcoin they have, and they're doing a mad dash for it. MicroStrategy isn't simply accumulating like one Bitcoin a day. They're buying tens of thousands of Bitcoin per week, per every other week. I told you before, by the end of this year, MicroStrategy is probably going to have 1 million Bitcoin. When you think of how finite all assets are, and then how finite crypto is, how finite Bitcoin is, how many Bitcoin are lost and gone forever, this is kind of what I mean. It makes me incredibly angry, sad, and frustrated to see that people within crypto don't take this news to heart. I understand money's not infinite. I'm not telling you to throw every penny you have into the market, but I've noticed a lot of times you'll see people mentioning stuff like, well, the crypto market's down, I'm going to wait for it to go lower. And then prices go back up, and then they can't buy or afford what they could have before. There seems to be a gigantic, it's not, the term's not blasé, but like a wait and wait attitude. So not wait and act, not wait and move forward, not wait and do something. It's like a wait and wait for people even within the cryptocurrency market. I'm already devastated that people outside of crypto are never ever going to own as much Bitcoin as anyone else on the planet. I know a lot of times people may not understand when I say these things. It's because I don't like the idea of poverty. I don't want people to be where I was before. It's not something that like, oh yeah, it actually wasn't that bad. Let's replicate it. And then you talk about this is a once in a, it's not, do you understand what once in a lifetime means? You get that this is the only lifetime that we're going to have ever. This isn't once in a generation. This isn't once in a year. This is literally a once in forever that we're ever going to have a chance like this. Bitcoin's a brand new asset class. Bitcoin is going to $1 million per coin. Bitcoin is going to continue to enrich the lives of people who have it. The people who don't have it are going to have tons of economic problems in the future. And you must be. If you're not on TikTok or Flip-Flop or wherever people are getting their information from. I recently saw like one of those compilation videos of people talking about the cost of living. You remember a couple years ago, I was talking about he who holds the assets, like has the literal power and the money. The valuation of assets will continue to go up. This is why it's good to invest. A lot of people don't invest because they think it's a scam or they think it's, and I mean across the board, whether it be gold, real estate, land, stocks, bonds, you name it. Everyone has an excuse as to why they can't invest, as to why they can't do something. And I held this strong amount of conviction in my mind that those who hold crypto are going to be incredibly wealthy. And I don't mean like slightly wealthy. I don't mean like you'll make a couple like 10, 20, 30,000. I mean like you are going to be incredibly wealthy in the future because you are taking part in this new building up of this asset class. When you talk about, there was something recently from Larry Fink. He was talking about like the actual tokenization of everything. And he was saying that like it's now, and the people from Ripple as well, they were saying it's now a $0.6 trillion market, the actual tokenization, like digitizing everything and having like, you know, house deeds and cars and all this other stuff online, being able to fractionalize everything. They're expecting it to be like a 10, 15, $20 trillion market in the next decade. And crypto is going to be right in the center of all of that. We have all these people talking about that Bitcoin is going to 10, 20 trillion to, for market cap, but 10, 20 million dollars per coin. And then people in crypto hear it and there's kind of like a wait and wait. If Bitcoin's price doesn't go over 120,000, people go, well, it's not worth it. Bitcoin's price goes over 120,000 and people go, we're still not at $250,000. Bitcoin goes over $250,000 and people go, I should have got into it, but the price might fall. And it's just this constant, like, what are you waiting for kind of thing. Back to the other thing I was talking about, these compilation videos. There was a woman, she was walking through the supermarket. She was in the States and she was showing, and I mean, and I say it this way. A lot of times I look at people and I wonder why they never invested, why they don't invest, or if they're ever going to. She was complaining about prices. Obviously, everything's gotten a lot more expensive. But I sat there and I was like, a lot of her issues would probably go away. And I say it nicely this way. If she bought different brands, if she chose a different, like, slightly lifestyle, and if she like saved more. Once again, I'm talking from my vantage point. I have no idea who this woman was. But she was looking through the supermarket and eggs were $12.99. There was a guy holding up like a bag of Cheetos or something like that, and they were like $7.99. She picked up like a thing of like soda, and it was like I think $14 or $15 for 12 cans. This is outrageous. And I was like, first of all, you don't need Doritos, you don't need soda. And I was like, I wonder how different her life would be if she had invested. And then I moved it forward and I was like, if she started investing right now. And then I sit here a lot of times, really, this isn't a joke. I sit here a lot of times and I think the stuff that I'm investing in, as far as like the future, I almost said futurosity, that's not a word. The future prices of these assets, the real estate that I have, how much more is it going to be worth? The art that I have, how much more is it going to be worth? And I'm not content because I know that there's so much more that can be done. I never want to go back from whence I came, but I also feel like everyone else isn't taking the opportunities that I think that they have in front of them, especially those in crypto. And it kind of just makes me want to do more. This is probably, if you grew up similar to how I did, this is probably our only chance to like become rich. If you invest in the stock market yearly, 7% returns, 40 years, you get $1 million. I'll tell you honestly, I would rather be a multimillionaire now than in my 70s or 80s. That's just personally me. And when you see all this stuff sitting before you, or not really, because all the rich people keep buying it up, I'm kind of mentally forced to want to make a video like this because I'm like, I need people to really understand. And I know that a lot of you understand. Believe me, I've seen your comments. But for the other 90%, do you know what you're missing out on? Why are you, the idea of timing the market is something that I've also never really understood. Trying to wait to prices fall lower to be able to brag to other people that you got it at a lower price. I have a friend, hello, I doubt he's watching. He's really into Algorand, because Algorand is like, for those of you who don't know, they're partnered with all these different companies and all these, I think airline tickets and a whole bunch of other stuff are being put onto their blockchain. It's huge. He also grew up very poor, and we talk sometimes about money and like the actual creation of wealth. And he was looking at the current price of Algorand and he was like, it's so low compared to where it was before. He calculated how much money he needed to put in to be able to, if it goes just back to its previous all-time high, he stands to make about $300,000, $400,000. And then we were talking and I was like, do you know what to do with that money? He plans on then buying 2 properties with it. And it's this kind of like, he understands. I'm also his friend, so I'm constantly in his, like everything I'm telling you, imagine someone telling you that 24/7, it would drive you insane. We are very lucky to be in this market. But it's a matter of if you are actually using this opportunity to its full potential, to really realize it wasn't a fluke that people got Bitcoin for 1 cent. It went to 10,000. They made millions. Bitcoin's going to several $1 million per coin. XRP is going over $100 per coin. You should know that these things are going to happen. Rich people are buying up all of it, and they're essentially buying it from you. Every time you sell, every time you panic, they're taking your coins. Every time you don't buy or you sit to the side, Bitcoin falls down to $5,000. You don't react. Bitcoin goes to $109,000, and you sit there and go, I should have bought. So Bitcoin's now where it is. What happens when Bitcoin goes to $1 million per coin? Are you sitting there in 2 years going, 2025 was it, man? Bitcoin fell down to 70 something. I should have. Why the wait time? Why the waiting in general? What are you going? This is a real question. What are you going to do mentally in 15, 20 years if $8,000 becomes $7 million worth of Bitcoin? Like, think about it. Like, what would you actually do? Yeah. I hope that everyone really, I hope that you get it. Chances like this aren't going to pop back up When Bitcoin goes to $3 million, you can't sit there hoping that it falls back down to 5,000. When we hear that all the rich people have 99% of all the Bitcoin and you cross your arms and you get upset, don't wonder why. These people realize what is going on. The guy who runs BlackRock said the US dollar is about to disappear and is going to be replaced by Bitcoin. Think about that. Like, what more do you think of the words? I can't imagine a decade ago hearing those words in crypto, in Bitcoin, in anything. We know where all of this is going. We know how big this is going to be. We know how much money there is to be made. What are you going to do when people start to use Bitcoin over the US dollar? You know what's even crazier? You know that there are 12 countries already using Bitcoin over their local currencies and the US dollar in trade. Well, I can only just wish people good luck because that's all that we have left at this point. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you realize what you have before you. I hope you really understand how lucky you are to be in the market right now and not in 2038. That you are here, you understand the market, you're getting this news daily, and you can benefit from it. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.